Welcome to Extracurricular. I am your co-host, Eddie Geller.
And I am your other co-host, Stephanie Vanos, Orange County School Board member, here today as I am always, completely unofficially.
Welcome to the podcast. If you're here for the first time, Steph, what should they do if they're here listening for the first time?
You should subscribe. Mm-hmm. And also, if you feel moved, rate us.
But
See,
you
this
should
is
also
why
vote.
You do it. You should also vote. If you're 18 and over, you should register to vote and vote. Rate the podcast, please.
5 stars only.
5 stars only. If you agree with that, take this out. I don't know.
No, we're not. We can't take it out. It's in the pod. Do you know if your dad has subscribed yet?
Well, it's confusing and complex.
Like a relationship.
Any good relationship.
Of course. I loved today's podcast. We had a dear friend of ours. You want to tell us who we had on the podcast?
We had Rebecca Thompson. She is a school board member in Broward County, Florida. Rebecca and I ran for office at the same time, along with Liz Barker in Sarasota. And we really enjoyed, I think, running together. We shared a lot of the highs and lows together. And since we've been on the board, we've been trying to make sense of Florida public education together. And I just really appreciated Rebecca's comments. She's going through a lot right now in Broward County. She's also a mom to 3 young kids. And so I just admire and respect everything that she's doing down there.
Do you think you're closer with people you ran for office with or people you literally run with, like in marathons and training?
Oh, that's a good question. It's hard. It's interesting because, I'm going to answer it seriously. I don't have a witty response,
Okay.
but I think something similar about both of them is in your running partners, you have so much uninterrupted time together. And it's really one of the only times I feel like in our lives where we have that, where you're not looking at a phone because you're running and you have to pay attention to what's going on around you. And there's no kids, work colleagues, family, friends, anything like that. It's just you and your running buddy, running miles and miles together. So it's a really special bond and relationship. And even friends that I don't run with anymore, they'll always hold a special place in my heart because we spent just so much time together and so much like uninterrupted focused time. So that's special. But also running for office, same thing because, that is something that not many people do, as you know. Mm-hmm. And so the people that you get to experience that with, that's also, you just go through so much emotionally and physically. There's another bond there too.
Oh, that was such a beautiful, sincere answer from my flip question. I feel like you're bringing a level of heart and sincerity to this podcast that I need to match you at.
Well, I don't know about that, but I will say, someone asked me about a week ago. He asked me, well, how do you get out there and run? Why do you run? And I gave him this 5-minute answer on what running meant to me and how it has changed my life and how it's a metaphor for life. And he was like, wow, I was not expecting that kind of an answer. So that's kind of my bad.
Okay, so speaking of bringing sincerity to a podcast, you were on another podcast. Whose podcast did you appear on? Was it better than our podcast? Tell me honestly.
Rita Harris, Representative Harris, asked me to provide an education update for her podcast, and it was lovely, and you should give it a listen. Rep Harris does some great work here in Orange County.
We got to have her on our pod.
I know. Rep Harris.
Come on over.
We need you on. It was great. I loved it.
Okay, and so compare podcasts, repartee, me versus Rep Harris.
Well, you're both very different, so it's hard to compare. It's like children. You love them each uniquely, and you don't love them equally. You love them uniquely.
Okay, I happen to be in the room with your youngest child, and I'm staring, and she did not have a reaction when you said that, so.
Because she has heard this before. You love your children uniquely.
I love it. Oh, one thing I did want to point out about going back for a second about our interview with Rebecca, which I'm excited for folks to hear. And I think, speaks to education issues here in Florida in general. And I think we get to the end of our interview with her with a vision for what I think is not that outrageous of an outline of what schools should be looking like and how they should be funded. It was very thoughtful and very beautiful. But one of the things that was touched on in the interview is declining birth rates and how that has played into declining enrollment rates. And during the interview, you both mentioned that you had both done your parts because you both have 3 children, correct?
Correct.
And you said that you're done. You've contributed your portion. And I'm just wondering if this is a strange way for my dad to find out he's not going to have any grandkids from me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Geller.
Love you, Dad. Love you, Richard Geller. Okay, was there anything else this week that was interesting around the state?
Oh, let me think. Oh, you know what? There was a State Board of Education meeting this week.
Oh, aren't they the group that's very engaged and yet unelected?
Yes, they are quite engaged. You are right about that. Yes.
And quite unelected.
They also are unelected, true.
Oh, so what are some of the highlights, if you will, of the state board meeting that happened this past week?
Well, they had some extensive conversation with a school board member from Alachua County, and they also adopted some new social studies standards. We talked about those last week.
We sure did.
There were actually quite a few people who showed up and spoke about them, and they just voted, right after people spoke, they just voted in favor of them. And then they also adopted something called the Phoenix Declaration.
Okay, so you're not going to get this reference, but maybe 2 people who are listening will get this reference. It made me think of the X-Men because there's a character in the X-Men called Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix. But this is not related to the X-Men or comic books whatsoever, just to clarify that.
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of. So what is, just briefly, what is the Phoenix Declaration? You don't have to read the whole thing. Though you could. I might edit parts of it out, though.
Okay. Well, it's supposedly a vision that is put forth by the Heritage Foundation, and it sets out a couple of, I would say, pillars that they want to ensure that the education system is focused on.
And for folks who don't know, the Heritage Foundation, from the great folks who brought us Project 2025. So just so you know where this is coming from. So yeah, the Phoenix Declaration, it's not a long document. You can find it if you Google the Phoenix Declaration. Florida, the first state to adopt this declaration. I believe they intend for more states to adopt this. And some of the parts are about parental choice and responsibility, transparency and accountability, truth and goodness, cultural transmission. It sounds, parts of it sound very bizarre, but actually, a lot of it sounds somewhat reasonable if you read it on its face and you didn't know who put this document together. But I don't know, can you kind of explain why someone might be concerned about a document like this being passed by the State Board of Education?
Well, here's what I want to say. This document has been passed by the State Board of Education. And so I think we should really look at it. And, there are some things that I agree with. For example, in parental choice, it talks about the right of parents to make decisions about their child's education. So, if a parent decides that they want to opt their child out of some standards that have been passed by the state, well, then I guess, they can do that, in accordance with this. When it talks about transparency and accountability, my goodness. Who has talked about transparency and accountability more than us? Yeah. And I would love to see these rules applied to our taxpayer-funded voucher schools that are getting our public money. Yes, let's bring the sunshine to those schools. I am in favor of that.
Also in this Phoenix Declaration, every child should have access to high-quality, content-rich education. It makes me think, we've banned a lot of books that seem to be high quality, content rich education. So it really seems like every child in Florida should have access to that content and high quality education. And if parents want to opt their kids out of it, they can opt their kids out of it. But it seems like, according to this document, children and parents in schools should have access to that kind of education.
I agree. And then under the citizenship part, it talks about the ideas that we need to help our students, develop a deep understanding for things like ordered liberty, justice, the rule of law, limited government, natural rights, and the equal dignity of all human beings. And I think, wow, I agree with that. And I think we need to make sure that we are holding our state and we are holding our schools accountable to following the rules of law and the limited government and, ensuring that our parents have their rights. So, and that transparency and accountability, heck yeah.
I just want to round out this discussion of this because we were talking before we started recording about obviously our tongue is a little bit in our cheek as we go through this, but also I think it's really important for us that as these documents like this get adopted and they talk about parents' rights and they talk about students should learn that there's an objective truth that is in this document, that as these things get adopted, and obviously the authors of this document, the Heritage Foundation, have a certain worldview in mind, a certain subset of parents in mind who get to have rights over other parents. And I think it's important for us to assert that the parents who believe that books should be accessible, that there should be full transparency for taxpayer-funded vouchers, that we are a part of this system too, and you don't get to ignore us, and that we need to make our voices heard, and that we need to be recognized in documents like this, even if they were not intended for parents and community members like us, that we are going to speak up and we are going to assert our rights.
Yeah, I think you make a lot of great points there. And I would encourage anyone who has 5+ hours on their hands to actually go back and listen to the Board of Education meeting. There were some interesting comments made. Again, when board member Certain was being talked to, as well
talked down to,
as well as at the very end of the meeting. So would encourage people to go back and listen and hear what your Board of Education is saying.
Final thing to bring up, we are always trying to watch shows and enjoy the culture. And we've been watching a show. Well, we watched 2 episodes of the show on Apple TV, Pluribus, where do we stand on this show?
Honestly, this is how I feel. It's not great, but I do like the main character. I like the actor in the show because she played a major role in Better Call Saul.
She was Kim in Better Call Saul. So Pluribus on Apple TV is from the creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So I think I've enjoyed it more perhaps than you've enjoyed it. But I've given you an off ramp. I've told you if you don't want to keep watching, I can just take it on as my own. I can adopt it as my own show.
I just want to watch it and complain about it, but I also kind of feel like you just want to have an off ramp and you want to be able to watch it on your own. So if that's what you want, just tell me.
No, I just don't want you to feel like you're obligating to watch this show that you don't want to watch anymore.
I didn't say I didn't want to watch it.
All right. Well, we'll keep discussing this off mic. But check it out, Pluribus on Apple TV Plus if you're looking for a new show. Whatever you think about it, it's extremely well done and really interesting and something different. So I recommend it, even if it's not an enthusiastic recommendation. And with that, why don't we go to our interview with school board member Rebecca Thompson.
Welcome to Extracurricular, Rebecca Thompson. I am so happy that you have joined us today to be on the pod. Rebecca and I met during the 2024 campaign. We were both running for school board. Obviously, I was in Orange. Rebecca was in Broward. And like Liz Barker from Sarasota, who we are also friends with, we, I think, learned a lot from each other, leaned on each other, and vented, and also kind of buoyed each other on through the whole campaign process. So so happy to have you on today, Rebecca.
I'm super excited to be here.
Do you want to give a little background on yourself and sort of how you ended up on the Broward County School Board?
Sure. Bad luck. No. Okay, so I am, I'm taking down my computer. I am a mama of 3. So right now I have a 9, 7, and 5-year-old. When I was running, it was, 2 years ago. So a 3, a 5, and a 7-year-old. My background's in social work, so I have a master's in social work, and I was actually a school social worker with Broward County, and then after that, I actually worked for the school board, and we had an appointed representative at the time, because in Broward, there was some drama, and 4 of our board members got removed, and then got replaced by DeSantis appointees. And so the District 2 representative was one of those appointees. So when the election was up, I was pretty involved in party politics. So I was going around and asking people to run and being like, I'll support you. Like, what do you need? I'll do your field. And nobody wanted to do it. And then we had one person who did file, who had previously ran before, but didn't live in the district, was filed to run, and I just felt very strongly that I didn't think that that person would be a good fit to represent my district. And so I got in the race. It worked out for me. I ended up winning 2-1. By incumbency standards is what people tell me. And basically my platform was getting the community involved and really representing who we are and what we need, since I felt for the last 2 years we hadn't had that. And then also really increasing our mental health supports in the school, and then making sure our students have a voice in the decisions that we make.
I love it. Have you found it, since you've been elected, have you found it easy to start working on those initiatives, or have there been other things that are sort of taking up your time?
Well, so Broward is not in the great place right now. I don't know if the news gets around the state. I think anytime we get a lot of news on, so we unfortunately are in a period of redefining schools. We started it when I was running, and I actually ended up spending more time on the doors talking about what was happening than about myself. And so we ended up closing one school last year, and making an early learning center, and then converting 4 schools into K-8s, 2 of which are in my district. And I think the board at the time really thought that that would be hopeful, that that was enough. And unfortunately, this year we lost just under 10,000 students, which equates to about $90 million in funding. And that's on top of having this almost 10-year period of just every year facing this decline. Very similar to what I think school districts across the country are facing. So that has kind of launched us into a period of more redefining. But unfortunately, that means closing schools in this phase of it, and predominantly in my district. So there are there's 4 elementary schools that are proposed to be consolidated into 2. There's 1 middle school that's proposed to be closed and returned to the city because we lease the land. And then there's 1 middle school being proposed to close and turned into a technical college. And then there is 1 elementary school that it was initially proposed to be closed, but now it looks like it's probably going to be a school within a school for students with autism or other disabilities, is what some advocates want. And then if the middle school closes, we would convert K-8s for a lot of the middle schools, or a lot of the elementaries. So I've been spending most of my time doing that. There's not the funding to increase mental health professionals right now, so that's kind of been put on the back burner. But I have been able to increase community engagement, whether that is to my benefit. That's we'll see. But I thought the district did not do as good of a job as it should have the first go around because people didn't know what was happening. So this year I did 12 community meetings at each of my significantly impacted schools, and 2 virtual town halls. So overall, I've talked to about 2,000 people, just myself, in addition to like the ones the districts have been putting on. So I think people know what's happening. They very much think it's my fault. So that's,
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry.
No.
You had told me this a couple of days ago that you did 12 town halls already this year. That is, first of all, that's really incredible. And we can get into how those town halls are going and sort of what people are thinking. But the fact that you are willing to put yourself out there, because they're usually probably in the evening when you could be home with your 3 young children, doing things that they need to do, and you're putting yourself out there and really subjecting yourself. And people aren't going to be happy because schools are closing, and usually people are not happy when that happens. But I just think I wish more elected people did what you are doing. So thank you.
You're welcome. And that's kind of what I think too. I kind of thought, and there was like I don't know if it's a trend, but of Democrats, high profile Democrats doing town halls in areas that like Republicans aren't doing it. And that's not necessarily where I got the idea, but I kind of like, while I was standing there getting screamed at, that's kind of, I was like, solidarity. Like, these people, they deserve a voice. And I think a lot of the anger comes from confusion and frustration and hurt. And I feel like people, unlike us, who are like monitoring public education in Florida and on the federal level, like, they're just trying to survive in a lot of ways and get their kids to, soccer practice or remember to put money on their lunch account and stuff like that. And they don't realize how incredibly awful the situation is. And they don't realize exactly that they've kind of been swindled by vouchers. And the legislator that is preaching parental choice, well, it's not really a choice if you are completely defunding one of the options. It's not a choice if the vouchers don't actually cover private tuition. And it's not a choice if transportation isn't included. And so you can't get your kid there. And so now a lot of families are stuck in schools that are no longer getting properly funded. But anyway,
I want to break that down for just a moment, because I think we spend a lot of time talking about education in this podcast, and obviously the two of you are well acquainted. And so I want to maybe talk about this on even a more basic level, which is what is maybe a common refrain that people are angry with you about, and how do you break it down for them? This X, Y, and Z is why this is happening.
So a lot of people don't understand the charter system and how it's not yes, Broward Schools manages the charters, but we have no true say over who opens a charter, when they open a charter. And really, we can only pull a charter contract or lease if something incredibly awful is happening, like a safety security risk or like a financial situation. And so I got this comment a lot, is well, the charter schools aren't closing schools. And it's it's a different, one, it's a different system. Two, we have 239 campuses. We are the 6th largest school district in the country. And so they have 7 schools. It's a different situation, and you can't really compare it. But also, I can't make them close schools. If I could, this would be a very different situation. And so that's a misconception. Also, that Broward is a donor state or a donor county. So a lot of our tax dollars don't actually stay in Broward. And so they yell at me a lot for that, saying well, you're managing our tax dollars, whatever. And I was actually,
yeah,
a lot of money.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Can you explain that? What do you mean that you don't manage the tax dollars, and that Broward is a donor county? And also, could you let just some listeners know what cities are included in Broward County too?
Fort Lauderdale. I represent Miramar, Pembroke Pines, Southwest Ranches, Davie, and Cooper City. Pompano Beach, I think people would probably have heard of.
Boca Raton.
Parkland. So it's in Broward County. So my understanding is that Broward is a donor county. So that means that the state legislator has decided to kind of pool our money, and then it helps fund other counties that don't have that big of a tax base.
Yep.
And we don't have a say in that. They just decided that's happening. And I think there's other donor counties. I don't know if Orange is.
We're not one, but yeah, I think the thought behind it was to try to equalize the funding that is in all the district, that is in all the counties, so that whether you're a property rich or a property poor county, you're still getting the same funding per student. So I think that's kind of like the thought behind it. But people don't always understand that. They think, well, we're Broward County, we should have more money coming in, and really you don't. And also, the millage rates are not set by the school board. They are set by the state legislature, and they have been pushed back. So as property rates increase, you're not seeing that same increase, in your millage.
Yeah, and I think also, I think you can blame the state for a lot of this. I think also Broward County did not act swiftly enough. I don't think we managed a lot of issues that if we could have done it earlier, we wouldn't be in this situation. Like 10 years of decline in enrollment, 8 years ago, they should have said, hey, like something is happening here. Like parents are leaving for a such and such program. Like what can we do to be more innovative? And obviously hindsight is 2020. Like who would have known that we would get to this point? But I do think it's important that the district take responsibility for why we're here. At least to the extent that we should. And then also, so I tell that to my community members and I'm like, but unfortunately I've been here 11 months. Like I can't go back and change what happened. So I think those are the main misconceptions is the finances. I think charter schools, people don't understand. The Schools of Hope thing was also a big, stressor at the meetings because they are very concerned about having like two different education systems focused like working out of one building. But I also think and so they'd ask me questions and I was like, honestly, it's so new and everything is so fluid. Like this is what I know of what they can do, but as to like how we fight back, I don't know. Like, I don't know, because I also think every county is kind of interpreting what's happening differently or like what is eligible, what is not eligible. So that's incredibly frustrating because you could feel like you're safe and then you're not. And also I think just the base student allocation and why it hasn't kept up. And so basically I tell them like, look, we are living in a state that does not want public education to survive. And that's what really needs to sink in there. And I go, and that's not political because we're 50th in teacher pay. We're in, I believe 46, but we're in the bottom 10 for how we fund our students. Yep. And so we are just trying to survive in a system that doesn't want us to. And then people kind of agree with that. But Broward is pretty democratic as well. So it's pretty safe to say that.
I know you just kind of said it, but when you say you're working in a system that does not want you to survive, thrive, like what does that mean for you?
Well, I think if you just look historically what has been happening with public education in the state of Florida, we've had attacks over our unions. They mislead the public in how they're funding teachers. Like there was the whole, I can't remember what the tour was called, but this whole like teacher appreciation tour that DeSantis went on, saying that he funded salaries of so much, but really when you break it down is like a measly percentage wise. You look at the different ideologies they're currently trying to impose upon families. And it's interesting because that's only the public schools, but the charter schools and the private schools don't have to follow that as well. So it's like they don't want the system to succeed. And so then it's this self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's also, I've been thinking about this a lot. It's like, because we have to close schools to survive, we are kind of being complicit in the tearing down of public education. But if we don't, then we won't survive. So it's a really hard pill to swallow. And what I tell my community is like, we're going to have to make really hard choices. But if we do this, we are going to be stronger because we're going to be able to have multiple electives in each school. because I have elementary schools that have no electives because of how under enrolled they are. And we're hopefully going to be able to pay teachers better if we can figure out the current financial system. But that means people are going to be incredibly mad at us until we do that. And it also means that my 8 other colleagues need to make these hard choices or nothing is ever going to get better. And I think that's what I'm dealing with right now.
Is this something that has been, I mean, I know you were kind of saying like there have been decisions for the last decade. Like, is what is happening right now kind of like the culmination of these, like, you know, bad decisions? I'm using air quotes.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. But yeah, I think so. We had a smart bond program that did not go well. It wasn't executed in a way I think most people would have thought it should have been, which means our schools are not in the conditions. A lot of our schools aren't in the conditions that they need to be, which obviously leads to people leaving.
Yeah.
We saw this for a long time. We operated like we were people's only choice in a landscape where we're not. And so, but nobody wants to act because there's always an election. There's always something happening where you're like, oh, maybe if I can push this down. And I think that's really, we're at the point where it's like, you just have to act. And if you never get elected again, like you still made the system stronger.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. And it's easy for me to say because I don't have to run in for 3 more years, though people have told me they will remember. But it's like, if I only serve my 4 years, but the system is stronger and more stable and our kids are getting a better education, then I've done what I'm supposed to do. But yeah.
I mean, that's amazing and that's powerful. And, you know, I think that you have such good insight. And I guess I'll ask, you said you had 3 children. Do all 3 of your children go to public schools?
They do. My daughter is in VPK, and then my sons are in 2nd and 4th grade.
Okay. I mean, so I would assume as a school board member, you would have your children in public school, but some all people do.
Yeah, some do not.
Some people don't. I actually think it's incredibly important because you're running a system that you need to have buy-in to. And I think the majority of our board actually has their kids. If they have school-age kids, they have their kids in public school, which I think is something I'm really proud of. But yeah. Which also means they can find me when issues are going. And my daughter in the car would be like, Mommy, what schools are you closing? I'm like,
oh, goodness.
Yeah.
One, I'm not going to tell you why. I was like, because you will tell every single preschool.
Right.
All your little friends. And 2, I was like, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
So nobody actually knows yet.
I do appreciate the civic engagement, though, of children whose parent or parents are involved in the political process, because they know a lot more than I did at that age. That's for sure.
Yes.
But one of the reasons that I did think, you know, that we thought you'd be great on this pod today is just because I do feel like Broward is maybe, you know, a year or 2, several years kind of ahead of other counties in sort of what's happening, and sort of what you've seen is you've had more charter schools open in your county. I think you're like a pretty charter-friendly county, right? Mm-hmm. And private, and a good number of private schools as well, and people using the taxpayer-funded voucher program. But, you know, I think as we see these schools of hope, I do think it is going to cause other school districts to have to make these decisions on a quicker time frame, which I think will leave less time to interact with the public and to let them know what's going on and to inform them and kind of get buy-in and understanding, because we have this threat of these hope operators coming into our schools. Yeah, so I don't know if you're seeing any of that, or if that is kind of pushing you.
So I think I do think we're ahead of the trend in not a positive way. But yes, I think I think that's one of the reasons we are trying to move quickly and smartly, because we do know that's happening. I think it's also, I think there's always time for community engagement. Is it going to look exactly how everyone wants? maybe not, but I think in this day of age, like virtual town halls, I make videos. I know you make videos about like what's happening. And I try to reply to comments and DMs about it because there's some other things happening right now that we're getting comments like that. So I think there's always time to engage the community. It just might be a less formal, like this is a district town hall in 3 weeks. And I think it's really imperative for all school districts to look at what's happening. And like, again, we are in survival mode. Mm-hmm. And I think every county really needs to let that sink in, that there is no guarantee. There's no like rescue person coming behind. Like if we don't save public education now, there might not be public education in 5 years. Because we also don't know how the federal vouchers are going to impact our school districts. We don't know what else is coming down. We don't know the true impact of all the changes to the DOE happening. We don't know if Congress is going to stop funding special education. Yeah. So we really, like, I'm generally a very even keel Midwesterner, but like, I think everyone should be incredibly alarmed. And the sooner that we tell people that they should be incredibly alarmed and like activated, the better. And I think in Broward, if we can harness that anger at the school board and like inform people that it's the legislature in a lot of ways doing this, or the Board of Education, like maybe we can get more momentum. And I'm very impressed by like Sarasota, who's like really galvanizing this like parental movement, where Broward, I feel like we're like, it's another day. Okay. So I don't know. I don't know the changes of the parent dynamic, like what, if we're just so used to being beaten down because we are a blue dot or whatever. And so we're used to kind of being attacked and criticized and doged. So now it's like other counties being like, wait, they can't do that to us. We're on their side. And now they are. But I think if we can kind of turn parental rights against them, like that's a way in, right? But yeah.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Actually, we were just talking a little bit about the Phoenix Declaration that was adopted this week from the Florida Board of Education, and one of the tenets is parental rights. And so I was curious if the recognition of parental rights extends to those parents who want to opt their children out of the recently passed social studies standards on pro-McCarthyism, and if when they mean parental rights, that includes parents who want to have wide access to a wide variety of books. If when they talk about parental rights, it means the rights of parents who want their neighborhood school to remain open because that's where the majority of people go. So I think, you know what? I'm for rights of parents and the rights of, the vast majority of Floridian parents who are choosing their traditional public school.
I mean, I'm sure if you asked them, it'd be like, no, not those parents. We didn't want their input. They don't have rights.
Only the ones we want.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think we do need to use that. And I get a lot of parents at my community meetings also saying like, okay, now what do we do? Like, how do we fight this? And so I say what we need to do is advocate for a higher base student allocation, because I say, in my personal opinion, charter schools aren't going away. Like, I don't see any time in the next any amount of years that the legislature will be like, this school choice thing, not a good idea. I think we have bought into it. And I also feel like school choice doesn't have to be a bad thing, because we have a bunch of magnet programs, and it's good that if you live on the west side of Broward but you want marine biology, you can school choice into a school that offers that. So I tell parents, really it's about advocating for a higher base student allocation, because that benefits everyone, because it's how the vouchers are funded. Or I say, for a different pot of money to fund vouchers.
Yep.
Because then it's not coming out of the public education dollars. And then transparency of where the money is going. Because I feel like that can be something everyone can get behind. Because we have homeschool dollars that people homeschool and then send their kid to public school, and 2 months later, that money never comes back to us. We have people that go to charter, and then the charters are like, oh, we can work with whatever behavioral issues they have. And then after the first FTE count, they go, actually, we can't. And then come back to us, and there's no transparency of where that money is going. And I also saw an article, and maybe Stephanie, you remember this better because my head has been very Broward focused, but the state legislature just had to approve emergency funds to fund vouchers. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see they were short on money. I know they just released was the fourth calc. And so some of the money that they owed school districts from last year was just released. So it could be that
it might
funding.
Have been that. Yeah. But it's about being able to follow the dollars. And also just making sure everyone's educating at the same standard.
Right.
Which is something that's lacking. So that's what I tell people to advocate for, because I believe in fighting for things that are possible.
Yeah. Well, and I think one other point is, when we talk about your neighborhood schools closing or a Hope operator co-locating in your school, a really easy way parents and communities can fight back is to enroll in your neighborhood school. Because if you enroll in your neighborhood school and your friends and your street and your neighborhood and your community do the same, we're good. No one can co-locate in a school that's at capacity. And, schools that are at capacity and functioning aren't going to need to close. So that's a really easy way to share your experiences, share how you love your public school teacher, share how, because your kid is in the local public school, they have all these opportunities and after school programs and CTE, programs and advanced studies and, dual enrollment and all these great things and clubs and sports. Share those things and help to be even just a supporter to bring other people in, because full schools aren't going to close.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing everyone should be doing. Is
put it on a T-shirt. Full. I can't even say it. That's why it needs to be on a T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, and it's a cool part of the community meetings I've been having is everyone sharing how amazing their school is, and how, a kid got sick and all the teachers kind of rallied around the families, or, one kid got bullied at the previous school, but this school has really accepted them. And it's beautiful and heartbreaking at the same time because of why I'm hearing about these things, but it just really emphasizes the impact and power that neighborhood schools have. And then also that we need to be better at marketing, but it's not marketing from a district level. I do not believe that even if BCPS had the best commercial maker ever, that would help. I think it has to come from the individual school community and then the parents, because a lot of people would tell me that the reason their schools are under-enrolled is because the district isn't investing in marketing. We have a whole Choose the Best, Choose BCPS campaign. There's other components we've done, but I think parents trust other parents, even if they're online. So I tell parents, well, if you're on Facebook and you see someone go, oh, I would never send my kid to ABC Elementary, and you send your kid to ABC Elementary, don't scroll past it. You need to be like, actually, it's great. My kid is doing ABC. My kid is doing all these great things. I think you should go tour it. It's really the parents that need to galvanize that way. And when they hear people talking poorly about a school, combat that. But also if they're see a post that's I just moved into the neighborhood, I'm by these 3 schools, where should I go? And that happens a lot in Pembroke Pines because we have so many charters. So they'll be oh, I'm by Chapel Trail Elementary, but I'm also by Franklin. I'm also by Somerset. Like, should I apply for the lottery? And then we need more parents to be like, actually, Chapel Trail is amazing, or like whatever. But that's how we're going to dig ourselves out, is really hard decisions and like one positive thing at a time kind of building up. And also having people have more babies. So, you know, I work on that.
I want to say something, but I'm not sure it's appropriate, so I'm just not going to say it.
Are we keeping that part in the podcast?
I don't know.
We're cutting that out.
Have another glass of wine. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do I think that's the other recognition that at least Broward has, and I don't know if it's as bad where you guys are, but like our birth rate is not high at all. It's actually projected to decline because some of the commissioners that I've talked to is like, well, why can't you keep it open? Because in 10 years, whatever. And I was like, no, nobody's having children. Like
should we just take out health education from schools? Can we kill two birds with one stone?
It's already not there. They're looking at their phones.
There's only one option, and it's abstinence.
Yeah.
Well, and so I think our what they're projecting for us is the next 4 or 5 years include kind of the declining birth rate, but then they expect it to pick up again. And so, I mean, that's another really important point is, you want to make good decisions for your schools, but you're also recognizing that there will be changes in demographics and they may, birth rate may increase, which means we might, maybe we don't want to close a school that we might need in 6 to 8 years, but we also want to be smart with the money that we have right now. So they're tough decisions.
Also, when you said you want people to make good decisions, I thought you were talking about something else, but...
Always trying to stir it up.
We need more kids. Make whatever decision you need to. No, so ours, I don't even think it's projected to pick up at any time because of high cost of living down in South Florida. Like Miami-Dade lost 12,000 kids. We lost almost 10. Palm Beach is losing. The immigrant population is obviously impacted by things that are happening around the country. And so I don't even think if we did start seeing a rise that it would really help because we are so under-enrolled.
Yeah.
So the pressure's off.
Well, I mean,
Not fully.
We'll see what we can do. It's going to take that organic advocacy.
Exactly. The pressure can be on friends, too. To be like, maybe 3 isn't enough kids. I'm done now.
As am I.
I'm taking no personal responsibility for this.
We've contributed our 3. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, educating people of how we got here and then also recognizing what we can do to bring it back home is really like fighting this notion that public schools are like scary.
Obviously we've been talking about sort of this survival mode, what's been happening. I'm curious, Rebecca, when you when you won your election, you got this job, what are some things that you've imagined, man, if things were really cooking, if we really could have the system we deserve, this is a vision I have, or things that I think we need to go next if we're getting out of this just survival mode. I'd just love to hear, what you think about.
Yeah. My perfect world.
Yeah.
My perfect education system. I mean, not the Phoenix Declaration.
Yeah, that is for sure.
That's for sure. I think it's, we would have state of the art, well-maintained buildings, playgrounds. We would have gyms because that's something in the Midwest we all have. So there's always opportunity for PE because we have, it doesn't matter if it's 100 degrees out.
Yeah.
Obviously, our teachers and paraprofessionals and school staff would all be making well above a livable wage. And I would want to increase what I campaigned on, which I don't think it's happening anytime soon, but is having a social worker in every single school, and being able to put our mental health professionals on the actual recommended ratio, which is 1 to every 250 students. Because I think that is something that is really needed. Arts and music in every school.
These things like they're so good, but they're like not that wild.
Oh, good food.
Yes.
Which I think we have to advocate on a federal level, but like food that's like local, it doesn't have to be organic. I haven't really bought into all that, but like local and different options for everyone. What else would I
and big enough portions. I hear that from almost every student who comes to advocate for something. They always bring up school lunch. And I am appreciative of our FNS. They're wonderful, and appreciative of the grants that we're getting from federal government. But I think our kids are hungry. And I wish there was more food, particularly for middle and high school kids.
I think that in like fresh food, like in Virginia, they would have like a farmer's market stand in the cafeteria. So you could go get an apple or an orange and just was something you could put in your backpack for later. You didn't have to eat it at lunch.
Strawberry milk.
You and the strawberry milk. I love that fresh fruit idea. What a great idea.
And we have farmers in Florida.
We do.
So we should be able to have those kind of partnerships. What else? I think less testing. Again, none of my ideas I feel like are like, oh my God.
No, it's not. It's extremely reasonable.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think that's what we hear a lot is the over testing of kids. And, figuring out a way. But a lot of our teachers like get the, high performing teacher. So then they need that testing as well. So figuring out a way around that.
Yep.
Oh, and full day pre-K.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my perfect system.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, and I think what's really telling about that list, because mine would be very similar to yours, is these are really just common sense things that most people probably think like we have or would agree with. This isn't these aren't like radical ideas of how we want our education system to what we want it to look like.
Just to bring this back for a moment, because you're talking about common sense things. Do you really not have gyms? I just can't conceive of a school without a gym. So
I don't know the percentage wise, but a lot of our schools, especially our elementary schools, wouldn't have gyms. They have like where you eat, which is also like the stage. But in the Midwest, you obviously have a gym.
Yeah.
And you need it. We also are working, not every school has a playground, which is also sad.
Yeah.
So we're working right now and ensuring that schools, or if they do have a playground, they don't have, there's the pre-K through 2, I think, and then the older kids playground. But in our proposal that came before us, they didn't include covers for the playgrounds. And I was like, in this climate period that we're in, like we can't have playgrounds without covers because you're not able to use them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think nothing too crazy.
Yeah.
Extremely reasonable.
Yes. Well, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing some time with us today. I follow you on Instagram, and I really appreciate how well you are communicating what is happening with your county and with your families and your community. I think you're doing a fantastic job. I admire you so much for taking this on, having 3 young children, but I also think it is so important that you do, because you have a strong stake in public schools and your children will be in the system for a while. And so I just hope Broward knows how lucky they are to have you on the board. So thank you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you guys for having me. Now I can say I'm as good as Liz.
Love it.